I never expected that a simple trip to the beach would change everything. I had come to this small coastal town looking for peace, a break from the noise and pressure of a city. It was quiet, just the way I liked it. No expectations, no distractions, just the sound of the waves and the open sky above. I was sitting alone on the sand with my sketch pad, drawing the ocean when I first saw her. She was walking a small golden retriever, her laughter rising above the sound of the crashing tide. She wasn't the kind of person you'd forget. There was something unforced about her smile, something honest. A wave suddenly crashed in, soaking her shoes and the hem of her dress. She laughed again, embarrassed, and I offered her my towel without thinking. She took it with a quick thank you, brushing her wet hair behind her ear as she sat beside me. We started talking easily like we already knew each other. Her name was Lena. She was visiting for the weekend, she said, needing time away. We talked about everything: music, books, the kind of dreams people don't say out loud unless they think no one's really listening. She told me she loved painting, but had given it up after college. I told her I still sketched whenever I could, that it helped me process things I couldn't explain with words. We ended up walking along the beach until the sun dipped into the sea. Time had folded in on itself, hours feeling like minutes. Before she left, she said she'd be back the next day, same time. I didn't even have to ask. I just nodded, pretending to stay calm, but inside I felt something shift. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. The next morning, I returned early, nervous in a way I hadn't been in years. She arrived in a light summer dress, barefoot, her dog wagging its tail like it remembered me. She brought coffee and pastries from a nearby cafe and told me she hadn't stopped thinking about our conversation. We talked for hours again, sitting in the sun, trading secrets like children swapping treasures. Lena told me there were things in her life she didn't talk about with anyone, that she was engaged, but not in love. Her family expected the wedding to happen in a few months. She wasn't sure if she wanted it. She looked at me like she was searching for something, some kind of clarity. I didn't push. I just listened. By the end of the day, she touched my hand gently, said she felt something real and terrifying. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't sure where this was going, only that I didn't want it to end. She smiled one last time and said, "Tomorrow?" I nodded again, and she walked away, glancing back once with eyes that made it hard to breathe. The next few days felt like a dream I didn't want to wake up from. Every morning, I found myself drawn to the beach, hoping she'd be there. And she always was, waiting, smiling, like she belonged in that moment. Our connection deepened quickly, naturally, as if something invisible had already tied us together long before we met. We weren't just talking anymore. We were building something, piece by piece. It felt fragile, but real. She began to open up more. There was a sadness in her eyes that she tried to hide, but I noticed. Lena spoke of her childhood in vague details, mentioning the pressure of always being perfect, always choosing what was expected rather than what she wanted. Her fiancé was someone her family approved of, a safe, successful man from a wealthy background. She said he was kind, but there was no spark. She had convinced herself that love wasn't necessary, that stability was enough. Until now. We spent our days wandering the town. We browsed small bookshops, shared meals at quiet places tucked away from the main road. She loved old poetry, and I'd read lines aloud to her just to see her smile. She'd close her eyes, repeating words softly like they meant more to her than they should. Sometimes, she'd stare at me like she was memorizing my face. I wanted to believe she felt the same things I did. That she wasn't just escaping something, but running toward me. One night, we sat close, sharing stories neither of us had told anyone. She leaned in, resting her head on my shoulder. Her voice was softer than usual when she said she didn't know how she would go back to her life after this. That I made her feel alive again. I didn't ask her to choose. I didn't press for answers. I just wanted to hold on to what we had for as long as it lasted. Still, there were cracks, small ones easy to ignore in the moment. She'd sometimes go silent when her phone rang. I noticed the way she always kept it face down. Once, I caught a glimpse of a message from someone named E. but she quickly turned the screen away. She never lied outright, but she avoided certain questions. Said some things were complicated. I told myself it didn't matter, that what we had was more important, that the truth could wait. We shared a kiss one evening, the kind that makes everything else disappear. She pulled away slowly, holding my gaze like she was afraid to lose it. "I wish I met you first," she whispered. That sentence hung in the air, heavy with meaning.
I didn't respond.
I didn't want to ruin the moment. I thought maybe, just maybe, she was finding the courage to walk away from everything for me. For us. As we parted that evening, her expression was unreadable. She hugged me tighter than usual, then left without saying much. Something felt different, but I ignored it. I chose hope. I waited the next day, just like before, but she didn't come. The hours passed slowly. I kept looking at the path she always took, convinced she'd appear at any moment with some reason, some smile, something to explain the silence. But the sun moved higher and the tide came in, and still, nothing. A hollow feeling settled in my chest. Something was wrong, or worse, something was true. Eventually, I walked along the shore, unsure of what I was even looking for. Then I saw her. At a distance, near the edge of the rocks. She was laughing. Not the quiet, personal kind she shared with me, but open and carefree. A man stood beside her, dressed like he didn't belong in this quiet town. He reached for her hand. She didn't hesitate. She leaned in and kissed him. Not quickly, not awkwardly, like she'd done it 1,000 times. I froze. Everything inside me stilled. I kept watching, though I wish I hadn't. He spoke to her like he knew everything about the beach, her favorite cafe, the stories she told me. She smiled at him the way she used to smile at me. And when she glanced around, our eyes almost met. Almost. But she turned away too fast, like she didn't want to see me. Or maybe she already had and didn't care. I stayed hidden, close enough to hear parts of their conversation. He talked about the upcoming wedding, about the guest list, the dress, the honeymoon plans. She nodded, agreeing, her voice steady. No hesitation. No trace of doubt. The woman who had once said she didn't feel alive with him was now holding his hand like he was her world. She told him this trip had helped her clear her mind, that she was finally ready to move forward. That line cut deeper than anything. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But I didn't. I just stood there, watching them walk away together, back toward the life she had always intended to return to. I had never been part of her future. I was a detour. A passing escape. Something convenient she could walk away from without a second thought. I turned around and walked back slowly. The weight in my chest was unbearable. I reached the spot where we used to sit. It still held the warmth of yesterday, but now it felt different. Empty.
False.
I pulled out my sketch pad, the one filled with drawings of her, of moments I thought were real. I tore out each page and let the wind carry them away. One by one, they vanished into the sea. There was no goodbye, no apology, just silence. And the beach, once full of magic, was now just another place I'd rather forget. That day, I didn't lose a girl. I lost the illusion I believed in. And somehow, that hurt more. The next few days passed like shadows, each one longer than the last. I stopped going to the beach. I stopped sketching. Every place that once felt full now echoed with reminders of her. I kept replaying our conversations, trying to find signs I missed, clues that would have warned me. But there were none. She was convincing because, maybe, a part of her did believe what she said, just not enough to change anything. I told no one. This wasn't the kind of heartbreak that came with sympathy. It was quiet, humiliating. I felt like a fool, trusting her, believing in her words, thinking I meant more than a passing distraction. There was no closure, just memories that wouldn't sit still. Every detail haunted me. The way she laughed, the way she looked at me like I mattered. It was all a performance, and I was the only one who didn't know it was a role. I tried to hate her. I tried to curse her name, to paint her as the villain of my story. But the truth was worse. She wasn't evil. She was simply selfish. She wanted to feel something new, something exciting, and I was the convenient escape. She didn't come here to find love. She came here to remember what it felt like to be wanted. And when she got what she needed, she left without looking back. One afternoon, I saw her again. Not in person, but on social media. A mutual tag. Her wedding photos. She looked perfect, polished, like she had never stood barefoot beside me whispering about doubts. Her smile reached her eyes. No trace of conflict, no sign of the girl who once said she was torn. That image solidified everything I had been trying to deny. She chose her world, and I never stood a chance. I logged off, deleted everything. Photos, messages, even the cafe number she once scribbled on a napkin. It felt like cutting out a part of myself, but it was necessary. She had already erased me from her life. I needed to do the same. Not to move on overnight, but to begin. To stop measuring my worth by what someone else couldn't see. Slowly, I started walking again. Not toward the beach, but toward places I hadn't been with her. I opened my sketchpad again. Not to draw her, but to draw the silence she left behind. That silence, I realized, had its own shape. It didn't hurt less, but it no longer felt empty. It felt honest. Love can be beautiful, even if it ends in betrayal. What hurts isn't that it ended. What hurts is that it was never real to them. But it was real to me. And maybe that's enough. Not for her. Not for the story we didn't finish. But for the man I'm becoming now, one sketch, one step, one breath at a time.